Yo, what's poppin', guys? Today I got a few more lists for you guys. It's gonna be a few different variations so you can see what you think fits best into the current meta that you're playing in right now. Or if you don't like some of the tech choices, like the super heavy samurai engine, I have some variants without those as well. So for the first one here, our payoff is we're going to be going for a fire light Chaofeng. So that means your opponent cannot activate effects of monsters that have the fire or light attribute. That's pretty much what this card says. And if this card gets destroyed, it gets to float into a hand trap. So we're running one of all these monster hand traps here, so you can adapt to which hand trap will fit your situation best. And if we're on like maxing them or something, these guys are hard ones per turn, so you'll only draw into one of them. And otherwise, you'll draw them when you need them, right? Haha, trust, guys, trust. This will turn your opponent off of fire and light by using the Denglong, which is a light, and it will search the Suwani for your normal summon, and which is the fire. And that means they cannot activate any of the Snake Eyes cards. That means no Snash, no Poplar, no Flamberge. There's no Promethean Princess. There's also no light monsters. That means none of the Blue Eyes stuff, right? No Maiden, no whatever that Link 1 is called. There's also no Fiendsmith stuff. Engraver can't activate, Lurie can't activate, Lacrima can't activate, none of the extra stuff can activate. So really, really good into those matchups, which are the top matchups. But as my luck would have it, of course, I am playing exclusively going second against those decks and going first against stuff like Chimera or Yubel, against which this does not much at all, unfortunately. You want to back this up because a common out to this would be something like the SP. So that's why the counter trap is here. That will really help with that. You can help insulate your lines as well with like a Borreload Savage off of the super heavy stuff. If you're not liking this big amount of bricks here of cards that you don't want to draw, which is like these four here, you can of course run a smaller package as well, where you're only on 3 Bike, 3 Wakaushi, 1 Benkei, and then 1 Soul Horns. That will still get you to your Chaofeng on the 5th summon, which also turns off Nibiru. And you can chain block a Denglong from Ash, so you also can only get Ashed on the Benkei, which means having this or this in addition to the Wakaushi in your hand lets you just be Ash straight up on any part of the combo. If you have the bigger package though, it does let you make the Gallant Granite to search for your Zefra as well, which gives you a lot more ceiling, as well as being able to make a Borreload Savage Dragon sometime during the combo, and just go into Fiendsmith stuff with the extra bodies as well. For our other variant here, we're still using the Denglong, and the really cool thing is that Denglong actually bridges from Fiendsmith to Zefra. We're not using our normal summon because we're not running the Chaofeng here. So instead, what we can do is search Zefra pieces, and then using the Exceed the Pendulum, we can actually set up our scales and pen summon out as a Franyu off of just the Denglong, which is pretty cool. It will get you to Path, for example. I don't think it's necessarily worth, if you have only Engraver, to commit into Path, even though it does have better matchup spread than something like the Chaofeng would. But I think using it for just follow-up is probably a better idea. You'll want to be making the Caesar. If you have any hand traps, I think I would recommend just sitting on Caesar and your hand traps, and then on the next turn after he uses negates, you can link him off, and then when he's sent from the field to the graveyard, you can add a Dark Contract from your deck to your hand. And you can choose if you want to play the Copernicus here as your add. Then you can normal summon this to send the Lamia, which will then revive by sending the contract. Or you can just not play it because you have access to another level 4 by linking off all your stuff into an Agnum Day to actually bring back the Lacrima as your level 4. So that will also get you there without your normal summon. And since you're searching for the gate anyways, this is kind of like you don't really have normal summons in this variant, so you could add this, but this card by itself does nothing. So I've decided to cut it. The muskets plus any low scale are actually a pretty good combo because you summon Starfire and then you activate a low scale. That's why we're running the Zefra Naga as well, just to get another low scale here. You could also consider running another Zefraxi because it's also another worm you can search off of this. Or maybe you want another Thuban. It's your choice, really. But you want to grab a low scale, activate it under the Starfire. So make sure he's in the far left or far right zone. And that will then summon out the Calamity, which goes into Gallant Granite. Then you have your low scale. You've searched Zefrath. And then you get to scale the Zefrath and pen summon from there. And that'll also just go into like Fiendsmith combo or something after you've searched for your Providence here or for your path. And then the Fiendsmith stuff lets you go into Desiree in this build, which will then negate path. You chain to the path to negate it. And then that way you don't actually have to shuffle back all your non-Zefra monsters, but it doesn't destroy the path. So during the next turn, your opponent is under the floodgate. And if you don't know what this card does, neither player can special summon monsters except from the hand or the extra deck. So that'll turn off summoning from the deck, which is stuff like Blue Eyes does that, Snake Eyes does that. You can't summon from the graveyard. Again, a lot of decks are reliant on summoning from the graveyard. You can't summon tokens. You can't summon trap monsters, which is really funny because I have a replay on that as well at the end of this video. And you can't summon from banished either, which is kind of relevant, I guess, for some things. Now, unfortunately, Branded has a really good matchup into both of these variants because they really don't care about either of our floodgates. So if Branded becomes even more popular, maybe we should look for a different payoff. But until then, either of these payoffs, either the Chaofeng or the Zefra path, do cover pretty much everything we have. That's in the meta right now. The downside of path is that your follow-up is a lot worse because you are also under the floodgate and can't actually Fiendsmith combo anymore for your follow-up plays. The upside is you cover a lot more matchups, so that could also be a pro there. All right, then let's get straight into some of the replays here. All right, here's what I'm playing in this replay. This is kind of a mishmash between the two variants you've seen. This goes for more of a grindy, control-y deck. I was trying to cut down on some of the bricks here. You can see the super heavy engine is only there to get out the Soul Gaia booster to access my Zephrath and then go into the Fiendsmith engine afterwards. I'm not on the Denglong here. I was trying out the Necroquip Princess instead. And unfortunately, all the good like grind cards, right, are all traps. So we would have the Divine Strike, we would have the Zefra War, stuff like that. I'm on Fiendsmith in Paradise here as well. I was trying out if that might be worth it or not here. So let's go have a look at how this replay went. All right, so we lost the coin flip. Our opponent's going first, but it turns out that they can't actually play the game at all. So they're going to pass. This tells us either they have a completely terrible unplayable hand and they're just going to sweep as soon as we do anything, or they're on a ton of hand traps. And both of these cases are something that our deck is incredibly good against here. Now, what I really liked about having the muskets and the Fiendsmith and the super heavy stuff all slapped together in Zefra is that we have a lot of different pushes, which lets us beat a lot of different hand traps. So I'm keeping the Ash prepped for a Maxi or maybe a Fuelos if I see one. And we're going to go ahead, Caspar in the far zone here so our scale can actually trigger it. And we're going to get ashed on the Caspar, which means I feel confident about the Wakaushi, but it is going to get ogred. On the plus side, this means Zefrat is not going to get ogred, I guess, but unfortunately we do lose a lot of the advantage that we would have gotten off of the super heavy line. Now that our super heavies are all out of consideration, we can go ahead for some Fiendsmith stuff. I think this is a misplay hitting the Lurie here. Personally, I think you should go for like Engraver or something, but honestly doesn't really matter because we could just go for Max here, get that additional Light Fiend in the graveyard, and then we can Requiem Gonna go ahead, pop off here a little bit. And here's where I was testing out the Necro Equip. And I want to go into the Caesar right off the bat here, and we get nibbed instantly. So that's awkward. We lose our guy here as well to the Jewess Worm, but we do get to at least pend a little bit. And again, you really want to see low scales instead of the high scales, but unfortunately the high scales are the good ones and the low scales suck, so you don't really want to play them, right? But the low scales are better to combo with other cards. So we're gonna go clear the nib. I'm assuming this is like Fiendsmith control by the amount of hand traps and everything that they have, so I really want to keep them off of the bodies. Turns out it's Blackwings. And now we have full knowledge here. So yeah, at this point I thought I could just use this whenever to send a guy. Apparently you have to special summon a dude. My bad, I guess. But Ash will just stop this, and I've played this deck before. I know they can't extend past this. And my opponent also knows they can't extend past this, and they see the writing on the wall and surrender this. All right, here another example of beating a ton of hand traps. So we're gonna go ahead and lead with the Wakaushi here. Gotta go for the Benkei, of course. Grab the Soul Piercer, equip it here, go into our Scarecrow, and we're going to search for the Motorbike. And Bike is going to go ahead and get us the Soul Peacemaker so we can play after we get impermed on this. We're going to pitch one of our 2 copies of the Maxi. A Soul Peacemaker here, we're super fine. We just go for scales, bring back. Oh, never mind. We are getting impermed. So fortunately for us, we did open the Soul Horns already. Now, unfortunately for us, none of these guys are tuners, so we can't go into the Denglong here. It's just going to be Fiendsmith combo. We still have our normal summon left over as well, though. So we're going to go ahead, see Engraver here, summon this back out, go for our sequence, and that's going to shuffle back 3 guys to make the Desiree. Now we can normal summon our Zefraxi and use the Requiem together to make Exceed the Pendulum. And by doing this, we can go ahead and grab our high scale. Make sure we equip the Desiree for some protection here. And now we actually get to pend out our dude again and also make an Appaloosa. And now we have 2 negates from Apple, the 1 double negate from the Desiree, and a Maxi in hand. And our opponent doesn't feel confident at playing through this. All right, we have no hand traps going second, so I'm just going to fast forward this for you guys. All right, so they have a Dragoon here. The set card on the right is a Drill Beam. Then they have 1 unknown set and 2 unknowns in hand. Their graveyard is just follow up off of the Ether Barrel here. So we're going to go ahead and, of course, we're going to lead with Wakaushi. If you have Wakaushi Bike, always lead Wakaushi, because if you use this first and they don't interact with it, you have to guess what they have, and you also play harder into draw. But if you don't reveal this and they ash you on the Benkei, then you're kind of, well, you're like not cooked at all, right? You just use the bike. Now, unfortunately, I was trying out Stealthy because this card just reads better than the other one. Unfortunately, it only reads better in the bottom part of the card and not in the top where it's missing the super heavy Samurai Soul. So I actually can't search it off Benkei. Yeah, where does it say here? Super heavy Samurai Soul Monster. Yeah, so I immediately swapped that back. Don't make this mistake. I made it so you guys don't have to. And now we get rolled in a deck that normally is not that good into draw. So let's see how we can still play through the Drill Beam, the 2 unknowns, and the Dragoon here. Well, of which the 1 unknown is going to be a discard for Dragoon, so it's not going to be that terrible. And we're going to try to pop the Drill Beam. And they imperm this, which is super duper interesting, because as you will find out in like 3 seconds when I make the Electrobite to force out the Dragoon, or the Drill Beam, I was assuming. Drill Beam's not even live. There's no normal monsters on the field or in his hand. So yeah, Electromite has to go goodbye here, but that's super fine because we can make the Requiem here. And I'm going to go for an Agnum Dayline. The only way I have of actually like clearing anything here is to make the Fat Desiree using the Agnum Day. I actually don't have any Light Fiends here I can shuffle back that aren't the links, which I need for the damage. I can't target this guy either. So that's not good either. I can't do that. And I want to swing over this guy for lethal because he's down to 6k life points. So it turns out I am short, I think 100. Let me see. Yeah, I have I think like 69 or something. Or so I'm missing like 100 damage, but he doesn't know and he just surrenders without looking at the damage. So that helped. All right, in these final two, I'm going to be actually showing off our floodgate payoffs. So we're going to lead with the Wakaushi as per usual. Since when we get ashed on this, we can just motorbike and we're super fine. So I'm on the small package here only when I was testing that out. So let's go straight into Denglong for the Firelight Chaofeng on our 5th summon here, which means they can't nib us, they can't Veiler us, they can't ash us, can't ogre us. So we're going to go ahead and just tract for Lurie here. I'm going to use these guys to make the sequence. And now a bunch of dudes here. And the reason I didn't go for the for the Requiem, I keep confusing sequence Requiem. I didn't go for the Requiem here because I have a level 4 monster here that's a Zefra, which I can turn into a tuner as I've just done. Now we do have to unfortunately commit both of these bodies here to make the moon, to then go for a Requiem. But what this enables us to do is use the Lacrima here to actually make a Borreload Savage Dragon. And now we can make our Desiree here. And we'll just equip this from field. Providence will search a counter trap for another disruption. So that's 1, 2, 3 Omnis, and they can't use fire or light monster effects. I see them summon Salamander of Fire. It's super Jover for them. I'm not even going to interact with this because everything they can make is either a fire or Axis Code, which loses to Desiree. So I'm keeping all of this for like board breakers or some surprise attacks because nothing they do can actually harm me here at all. And as you can see, they can't activate any effects. What's also really helpful is the Chaofeng doesn't state anywhere which attributes it's locking. So your opponent might not realize and commit into worse plays. And for our final replay, this is not going to be a Chaofeng, but a Path replay here. And we are going second into Argo Stars. Now, when they summon the Aedra here, it's going to activate the effect. Your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to the activation of your continuous trap cards or effects. So that means if he uses this effect to place the guys, I guess I can still maxi then. But once the traps are on the field, I can't chain to them. And if I use my maxi first, then he will chain and I don't get any draws at all. So I'm going to use it here. I could have also chained it to this, but that would be the absolute last point in time to do anything. So I'm only going to get one draw. It's going to be like 4 disruptions or something. And we get maxied. So since this is more of a stunny control deck, I guess. Well, it's not really that stun, but they always have defissure. But I feel pretty confident that they don't have other hand traps. So I'm just going to take the challenge, especially since I know if I can get the path, they cannot play the game. Because path says you can only summon from hand or extra deck, and none of these trap guys are actually from hand or extra deck. So I'm going to get negated on my Calamity. Kind of a shame, but it's fine. I'll just link her off instead. Now, I think he wants to summon this guy so I can summon less guys. That doesn't really matter. It's still a trap. Is this in their zones? Thermal spell traps? Nah, but I only have 2 targets left because I run 3 Starfire and 1 of the other 2. So I'm getting a ton of bodies on the field here. I'm just trying to bait out like some disruptions here and stuff. I'm gonna go ahead and link climb a bit here in a second. And we make the sequence first. That's going to go into the Desiree. I feel like this will more or less force some disruption here coming out. I'm going to make the Agnum Day as well. And when sequence tries to equip the Desiree, he's going to use this trap here to bounce my Desiree back. Kind of unfortunate. Maybe I had a better way of playing around it. I don't really think so, if I'm being honest. Can't really think of anything. Would have been nice to keep the Desiree though, huh? Maybe I should start playing like Elf and make Elf instead of Agnum Day. That might be a consideration. So there's definitely a lot to still explore here. And we're going to get negated here. So I don't send this guy. But I don't care about Activate's effect. I'm using it as a link 3 for access code talker. And here's the point where I'm like clicking on these cards. And I realize here, while this card is face up in the spell trap zone, warrior monsters you control cannot be destroyed by card effects. This guy's a warrior. So I'm like, uh-oh, that's not good. I have to pop that thing first. But now, fortunately, we get to go for a pen summon of our Zefra, and that's going to get us to path. I've already used the Providence that's already in the graveyard here. And now track is going to get me some more bodies, which I'm going to need to make an SP, because that's the only other attribute I can get from my extra deck at this point. This guy's a light. This needs too many bodies. This is unfortunately also a light. It's also a light, and I can't make this. So I'm going to have to banish the SP from field to pop his monster, and now I can swing for it's not game. Of course, they have a blocker, so I'm going to swing for big damage, but that's all it's going to be. And now my contingency plan is going to come up. It's going to be the Zefra path. He has 15 cards in hand here, and it's not going to matter at all because he can't actually summon anything. And I have 7,000 life points. There's no way I can die here. Gonna set a bunch of traps here, do a bunch of shenanigans, and he may or may not realize that he can't summon anything yet here. But my plan is I can just try to find a way to Lacrima. If I find another light fiend, I think I can get there. Yeah, I should be able to like pen Zefraxiton and then another light fiend, and then I make Lacrima. And now I see the Deep Fissure, so I'm like, oh, that's really annoying. But I can use Lacrima as Xyz material, because then it doesn't go to the grave. It doesn't get banished under Fissure. It still goes to the graveyard here. So, yeah, I can still use the Caesar to make sure I get the burn through. And for turn, we're going to draw the Oracle. And for some reason, he doesn't have Nash Blossom. So we kind of just win because I get to grab the Thubin. Now, all I need is some guy in my extra deck that has attack points at least 300. So that's going to be our Zefraxiton here. He's at 1900. He gets to tag out all these that's 10s. None of it matters. He can't summon any of these guys. He reveals his last card. I don't care. And we're going to use this to pop his Typhon and then swing with our Zefraxiton. And of course, you can't see it here because he surrendered too early. It's very important that we protect our scale with our Providence so our path doesn't get destroyed and he can suddenly start summoning stuff. Alright guys, I'll show you the routing on the super heavy line. If you're on the big package here, you can see I have all the guys in here, and there's only a slight difference if you start with the motorbike or the Wakaushi, which I'll show you in just a second here. Do note that you will need to finagle it a lot more if you want to go for the Chaofeng line here. And you have to lead with Soul Piercer or Wagon. You still probably just win, honestly, because of like all the other stuff you get to make, but you can't really get the Fire and Light Chaofeng to go off here. Now, this is where you would search for the motorbike if you didn't start with it. I did, so I'm going to go for the Soul Peacemaker here. Otherwise, you'll add the bike, and that will just search that here. So we're going to go ahead, discard any monster that we don't care about. Bringing back our Soul Piercer here. And now we'll sack this guy off for scales. That's going to give us the perfect amount of bodies that we need. And it's important that you actually bring back the motorbike here because we need 2 level 4s. And we want to link off our Soul Piercer. So we'll use these 2 guys to make the Gallant Granite. That's going to let us search for our Zefrath here. Doesn't matter what you detach. Now we can scale the Zefrath. And we open the Zefra, but we'll just pretend we send it, right? I'll just send another 7. Doesn't really matter. I'll just pen them from hand. And now, since we want the 2 guys from the extra deck, we're going to have to get 2 zones. So we're going to go for Moon here. And the Soul Piercer here is going to grab us the the wagon. Sorry. Oh, I almost misclicked there. Terrible. And now we're going to go ahead and change our 0 link zones to 1 link zone. And then we're going to convert our 1 link zone into 2 link zones using the Fiendsmith line here. Bring back the engraver. Shuffling back any of these guys. Doesn't really matter who it is. And that's going to go into our sequence. Right, now we have our perfect amount. So we're going to summon the 2 from the extra deck, which is this guy and Zefra, which is going to be in my hand. And then our wagon as well. So after your pen summon, your board should look, he should be here because he's from EMZ, and this guy's in attack position to chain block. Good habit. So your board should look like this. And now we're going to search for Providence so we have more protection on our path. Now we'll activate him to turn him into attack position. Doesn't matter which guy you equip it to because we are going to be summoning him right afterwards. And that's how we're going to be making our Denglong here. Now we're going to add our Swanee here. Get the normal summon him. Make our Chaofeng. We've already locked them out of fire and light here. Very nice. And now we can summon this out. Now, there's a few different ways you can go about this. If you're not running Path, you can just activate this. Honestly, it doesn't matter if you activate it or not, huh? So if you're not running Path, you can go and just make Baron here. And then use the Providence to search for your counter trap. And then you use these 2 guys to climb up through the Exceed into an Apo. But if you are on the Path, you will instead want to make an Electromite here. That's very important, actually. You're going to want to send any low-scale Zefra. If you activate this effect, it actually goes back to the deck, which is pretty funny. So we're going to go ahead and grab this guy. To pop our Benkei here to grab any low-scale Zefra monster. It's very important because otherwise you can't activate the path. Oh, we got to draw. That's convenient. Now we can go ahead, summon out our Desiree here. Shuffle back all the rest of the stuff that we have left in the graveyard. I love putting them in the anima zone because you can't be targeted. Very funny. And now we can use all of these guys here to make an Appaloosa. There's 2 materials. This guy's just a free leftover body. Very cool. Thank you, Kanye. All right, and then we'd use the Providence to search for our Zefra path, which I already have. In this case, you might as well just grab the counter trap if you want to, which just makes our board even better. And now, very important, before you activate the path, you want to equip to the Desiree here. And now when you use it, make sure your toggle is on auto or on. I will want to chain here to then negate the path. Very important, so you don't shuffle back your entire field here. All right, and this should be the game state here. You should have an Appaloosa with 3 negates. Fire and Light lock Chaofeng. You have the Zefra path up. You have a Desiree, and you have 3 cards left in hand, which here are, I mean, 2 Handtraps and the counter trap that I searched. So, yeah. They're not winning anytime soon, let's be real. All right, I hope this helps you guys. And be sure to like, comment, subscribe, join the Discord. Link is in the description of the video. And I'll see you guys in the next one. See ya.